Welcome everyone for this interesting webinar that we are holding today. So for this webinar, we have the two distinguished speakers. First speaker is Mr. Larry Horner from Intel. Mr. Horner is a member of our department, the Industrial Advisory Council, and he is a senior solution architect at Intel, and he has more than 30 years of industrial experience. We'll be happy to have the Mr. Horner as a speaker. And so the other speaker is Miss Roshini Chelani. She just turned on her video. So she is joining from Qualcomm at the sunny California in San Diego. So Ms. Chalani got her master's degree from our department, UTD ECE, in 2016, and she is currently a senior RF validation engineer. So we'll first listen to Mr. Horner and Ms. Chalani, and then after that, we'll have time reserved for questions. So the whole purpose of this webinar is about, your questions. So if you have any questions, please be ready and, ask questions after these two speakers talk. So let me briefly talk about, give this information that, our Johnson School and ECE, this is just the number of students, and basically in ASEE, the American Society of Engineering Education report in 2019, the number of master's students in EE and CE awarded. The UTD is 9th largest program in the nation, and CE program is 32nd largest program in the nation. In terms of PhD, we are fifth largest number in numbers, fifth largest program in the nation, 29th in CE. Okay, this is an interesting number here, that ICE, that it is a federal government agency, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Report 2019, and it shows that the University of Texas Dallas, the active authorization with employment authorization issued, this is number one. So in terms of a number of students participated in the OPT program in STEM. In numbers, we are number one in the nation. So this is, I don't know if it is well known, but we are a very large program, and we are actively hired by industries. As you know, the OPT is, the optional practical training. Any international students who get a job, they need to go through OPT. And in terms of number in STEM, we are number one in the nation. So I briefly looked at, the graduate students' employment, and I found that, well, Larry is working at Intel, but Intel Corporation has been the number one employer of our graduate students. For past 5 years, Intel hired more than 150 of our master's and PhD students. This is just based on skill verification letter. The skill verification letter is a letter requested by alumni who is going through the permanent residency green card application. The number should be larger than this, but basically this is what we have for the skill verification letter log. And number two company is Qualcomm, and number three is Apple, and so on and so forth. So there are lots of opportunities, employment opportunities that I want to say. Many people already know about Johnson Career Services. The Johnson Career Services is one of the offices in engineering school that they are doing all this the services for job search and mock interviews and your resume, refining or something like that. So you can contact these folks right here. Especially for internships, you must go through the Johnson Career Services if you're an international student. And Marion Stewart. So based on the last name, A to F go to Marian, and G to N go to Corey, and O to Z go to Andrea. Okay, so we have these services about the employment. So without much more about this information, I'd like to just turn this the table over to Larry, and let's welcome our speaker, Mr. Larry Horner. I will stop sharing my screen, Larry, so you can share your screen. Okay.
And I think I've taken the sharing. Can you confirm that that you see one slide for me?
Yes, I can see it.
All right, very good. So, well, congratulations to everyone who's about to graduate and enter a new phase of your professional career here. I, I was honored to be asked to to chat with you a little bit here today. I prepared a few slides, mostly just to capture my thinking, and it was a clean sheet of paper when I started. So let me tell you a little bit about why I put this down and where I am. I am not a hiring manager at Intel, so I can't hire any of you. I have been a hiring manager several times in my career. I suspect I will not be a hiring manager in the future, but as you saw, Intel does hire a lot of graduates from the University of Texas at Dallas, and I would certainly encourage all of you, if you haven't, to take a look at the openings that we do have. I pay taxes here in North Texas, and the footprint that Intel has here is thin, although we do have a large footprint down in Austin. So if you're interested in staying in Texas, I'd encourage you to look at some of the opportunities that we might have in the Austin area. The other two big locations, obviously, for Intel are out on the West Coast in Portland, Oregon, our largest footprint globally, and in the Phoenix suburbs, and of course corporate headquarters out in Santa Clara, California. So when I started thinking about all this, I thought about the various times that I've been either a hiring manager or in the job market, and one of the bits of advice that I had many years ago was about having a look at Leonardo da Vinci's resume. So I've shared these slides. So if you need to copy this slide down, you can just ask for this slide deck. There's nothing secret here about this. But if you're not familiar, it's an interesting read. It'll take you a couple of minutes. It's advertised as the first resume 500 years old. I don't know if it was really the first resume or not. But one of the things that stands out here is that Da Vinci's resume, and that's incorrect, actually. I'm just citing the city he's from when I say Da Vinci. Leonardo's resume, it's not about him itself. It's really about what he brings to the potential employer. And one of the things that we sometimes get wrapped around the wheel on with our resume is everything that we have done. And we forget that the real question that the employer is looking for is what can you do for us? So when you start to think about your resume, you may want to think about that. And it certainly, even though many of you don't have a lot of experience, you can still cast that verbiage or that text and highlight those experiences that will be applicable. So I suggest that you think about tuning your resume to each application. You don't have to rewrite it. The key word there is tuning. So think of an instrument or a piano. Make those adjustments if you would. I would strongly encourage you to actually take a look at using keywords though in the application. In the opening and working those back in and that tuning into the resume. And one of the reasons for that is that shows that continuity of expression, and there's less a chance of miscommunicating. Hopefully nobody has more than a 2-page resume. At this point, I know that there are some jurisdictions. I've hired people, for staff positions globally, and I used to jokingly say there are certain jurisdictions where every year of experience is a page of resume. So the story there is I'd worked with someone, I recognized the name, it was a very unique name, and I had to flip back to page 10 to make sure that it was the same individual that I'd worked with a decade prior, and sure enough it was. I ended up hiring him, and I had to tell him that story, but I couldn't be sure until I got to page 10 of his resume that this was the same guy. As a hiring manager, if you go out and just grab Word and pull up the template for a resume, don't use that. We don't care about your ambitions or goals. As I said before, what we really want to know is, what can you do for us? And your ambitions and goals don't really answer that question. And also references are that's last millennium. Those should have died with Y2K types of problems along the way. If we're interested in finding out about you and your background, we'll be able to do that, or we'll take that. So don't waste the space. That's what I'm saying. Is that even though you've got two pages in there, don't waste the space on things that we don't care about. What we do care about is that if you've got something truly that makes you unique, and what I mean by that is, if you're ranked above 1600 as a chess player internationally, or if you served in the Peace Corps, or if there's something truly that makes you unique. We do want to hear about that, because that may tell us a little bit about the bandwidth of the individual that we're looking at. The other thing that's really important is you've got to get past. You'd be surprised how many applications we get for every opening that comes into us. You've got to get past the computer to begin with. How do you get past the computer? Is that using those keywords, because there are certain triggers they're going to say, as we balance these things out. No human being reads 500 resumes for one job application if we were to get that many. So there's an algorithm that we apply, and it's classified high secret type of thing that creates the A pile and the B pile. And then someone from our human resources team, and this doesn't just go for the company I work for today, but for every company that I've worked for. And then someone from HR who is not the hiring manager will go through and sort that pile out so that they can bring however many the hiring team has decided they want to see. They want to see a handful, 2 handfuls of resumes at most. So that's where it gets there, and that's what the resume does. Is it gets you past the computer and past the HR folks, and that really is your goal with that resume, is to get into that short list, as I call it, into that handful or 2 handfuls of folks that you can get an interview, and then once you get an interview, we'll talk about that. So let me click my slide forward. So second page, for what it's worth. There are a lot of channels out there. LinkedIn is really good. If you're not on LinkedIn, I didn't check all of you, but if you're not on LinkedIn, get your LinkedIn page up. Start putting things there. When I said we were going to check you out, one of the things that we always do is we look to see what's on LinkedIn. If there are any other channels. When you're applying for a position, look to see if you have anybody at your first layer of connectivities, or worst case second layer, never go to the third. Ask them for help. Ask them if they know anything about this position, about the opportunity. Gather some intelligence on it, and don't be afraid to ask. The answer is always no until you at least ask. Sometimes the answer comes back no once you've asked, but it's always going to be no unless you've asked. The transition here, if you get before the hiring team, there are things that I will tell you that are in the mind of the hiring team. They will not likely ask these things very directly, but this is what they're going for in that conversation. It's not a test. In that conversation, the first thing that they really want to know is would you appear to be a good fit for the team? And fit can have lots of different dynamics associated with it, but that's what they really want. Are you going to fit into a team? Because these are all team environments. The solo individual out there is not likely to be brought into these corporations today. And secondly, behind that, and this is the teeter-totter as I describe it, is that they're trying to figure out what type of spark or fire you have for what you're doing. Where is your passion, and is there some humility to balance that back out? Again, that goes back into this, are you going to be a fit for the team? So they're trying to judge that in that conversation. So this is what's going on. One of the real big things that I've learned in the many years as a hiring manager is that we see a lot of candidates that I will say choose not to listen. They go in with a very strong sales pitch, if you would, on themselves, and maybe they miss out on some of the keys, and that may be an indication that there's not going to be a real good fit. Similarly, the question is, do you think, are you able to face a question that comes up that maybe is new and novel, and how do you react to that? There are a number of folks that have coached, people that said, one of the things that happens occasionally, and y'all should look at how Google conducts their, if you haven't, their interviews and their testing and all that, is that they want to find out where that breaking point is. They want to see how you react when you're presented with something where under those constraints you can't give a positive answer. So think about that and recognize the fact that if the conversation is heading in that direction, they're just trying to test a boundary. It's not a failure condition. Don't think of it as a failure condition. They're trying to figure out, again, at that fit in that conversation, how are you going to react in the business climate when you run into a situation where you need to ask for help? So those are the big picture things that most hiring teams, and I've distilled this significantly, most hiring teams are thinking about. The people who are going to make the decision, do I like this candidate and will I make a job offer? When I started my career many years ago, and thanks for saying it's only been 30 years, I remember going through one of the IEEE journals that hit my desk, and it said that I'd have 7 employers in my career. Well, I thought, how could this possibly be true? My background was my father and grandfather had worked for the same corporation combined over 95 years. Well, I've worked for 8 corporations in my career, and it's a sign of the times. So we've got people at Intel who have only worked for Intel and they've been here 40, 45 years or longer. But they're the rarest of the breed today in the technology sector. Part of it's because of the way technology makes progress. The other thing that I want to point out is while many of you may be finishing university, some of you maybe with your PhDs and you're full, you've matriculated to that level. There really is a lifelong learning. This is, chances are this is your first career stop and not your last. One of the things that this goes back to the LinkedIn comment, make and keep friends, high and low. Yeah, I told you the story about the fellow that I ran into, who I worked with 10 years prior. That's not the only example. My career is littered with people that I've bumped into from the very beginning. I bump into the same people over and over again, and the thousands of folks that I know. It's amazing to me sometimes that I was just on a conference call the other day with someone who works in the utilities space, in the power space. And they're talking about putting in some private networking, the thing that I involved with. And he and I had met about 15 years ago when he had worked for another company here in the Dallas area. He's out in Atlanta now or something like that. But we connected again, and because of that connection, there's a business trust that we can establish. So keep those contacts and keep track of them. One of the last things on this 102 sections that I've got here is that, and it goes back to, do you listen? When I was a hiring manager, one of the things that we always prepared the candidate for ahead of time is that we'd have a short conversation and let them know about how the interview process was going to work and the time and all of that sort of stuff. We had one candidate who came in and we were in a somewhat of a casual environment. I told him, I said, look, leave the tie at home. And he came in with his briefcase and his suit and his tie. And I said, well, why did you do this? And he said, well, I was told by the recruiters that, I should look my best. And I said, well, did you remember I told you to leave the tie at home? And he said, yeah. And I said, how would you react if I hired you into this organization and I told you to do something and you chose to ignore specifically what I asked you to do? How do you think I should react as a manager? And this candidate looked at me and I said, you didn't listen. I got to tell you, it's one of the things that when we are giving you this guidance, it wasn't an optional statement. It was a small thing, but sometimes it's those small things that if I have 2 candidates and the team really likes and we score them so close, did you listen? Is one of those big things that can make the difference between moving forward or not moving forward. It's a very competitive environment out there. So pay attention. You may not realize that some of those things are the test. Take those opportunities and think about it. Think about that process itself. Really be amped up. Be on the sharp edge of thinking when you're in front of that hiring team, because a small misstep may make the difference. If you're competing for that top position. All right. So when you get the interview, hopefully I'm still on time. One of the other questions that we always used to like to ask was, so what did you learn about the company that you'd like to ask me about? And, occasionally we would get, I don't know, wrong answer. right? Go to the company website. If it's a public company, know a little bit about their financials. Have some questions prepared. 2 of them for the HR folks. You're going to talk to the HR people probably in the beginning of the process. Have a couple of them, and have a couple of questions prepared for the hiring manager or hiring manager's team. A general question, a good thing, and one specific, and then rehearse asking those questions. Be prepared to ask those questions. Figure out when to weave those questions into the conversation. Sometimes they'll fit dynamically into the conversation, and sometimes they'll come at the end. There's often a point where, well, do you have any questions for me? That's where you want to work that question. There are some questions that you don't want to ask. Also be ready for that. Anticipate this little throw off type of question. Again, if you look at what Google does, they like to throw candidates off. Tell me about the experience you had peeling an onion. Who knows what it is? Be prepared to talk about what you do other than just academics. You don't have to go into a lot of detail. I like to build houses with Habitat for Humanity. It's amazing to find out how many people like to build things. Well, why do you like to build? Well, it's because it's part of what I like to do as an engineer, and where I am in my career, I don't get to build physical things anymore, and I still miss it. So I do that now is one of the things that satisfies that desire, that need that's deep inside me. In the things that don't ask, there really is a long list, but don't ask about salary. Don't ask about benefits. They will tell you all of that. Don't ask about other candidates. You can ask about details of the hiring process if it's not described to you, or if it's not clear. Timing wise, if you've got visa requirements, if there are any special considerations that need to come into play. And then finally, be ready for what I call the trigger question. Why should you be the chosen candidate? And in here, this goes back to listen and think. Be brief. Make no more than 3 points. This is why, this is how, this is when. Be crisp, be specific if possible, and tie it back into the elements that you've heard both from the HR folks and the hiring team that's in there. So weave those keywords into it. And again, be crisp, be sharp, be brief. And that's pretty much the guidance that I've got. Go out to the Intel website. Look for the openings if you're interested. Like I said, there's lots of opportunity. Go to the websites directly. You can use something like Indeed, to find them. But again, if you go directly to the company website, you may find that the information is a little more current. So if you find the job on Indeed or wherever it happens to be, still go to the company website as you apply it. So with that, Zhang Bong, I'm going to yield.
Thank you so much, Larry.
Questions later.
Yeah, thank you so much, Larry. Wonderful talk. I hope some of the attendees here, please hold on your question to Mr. Horner. You will have the chances to ask questions after the Rashini's talk. Okay. So next speaker is Miss Rashini Chelani from Qualcomm. So once again, she's the alumni, one of our alumni, graduated in 2016 with master's degree. So Roshini?
Thank you, Professor Lee, and thanks a lot, Larry, for giving that presentation, because I got to learn so much. I recently gave an interview, and I got to know so many mistakes that I did from what you said. And I think one of the things, the feedback that I got was the listening one, and which I have a question on that, but I'll keep it for the end to ask to Larry. So thanks a lot for giving that. Let me share my screen. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So first and foremost, I just want to...
Welcome to VoiceOver. VoiceOver speaks descriptions of items on the screen and can be used to control the computer using only your keyboard.
Oh God, what's happening?
If you already...
Okay. Oh, so just a little bit about me first, before getting started. I want to first thank all of you who have come here. Are you guys able to see my presentation? Or is just my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let me then do that. Okay. So just a little bit about me. As Dr. Lee said, I am a wireless engineer at Qualcomm. I have interned at Ericsson, Intel, and Apple. I did my master's at UTD. I came in 2014 fall and graduated in 2016. And just giving you a little bit of glimpse about my personality, all of these jobs that I got was because of LinkedIn, because of networking. Even the calls that I get now are because of networking. And so this is what I want to talk about in this session. So I love meeting people. If you know any of these people, this person is Jay Shetty. This is Nargis Fakri. This is Lou's house. I've met all of them because of just trying to contact them and reaching them out. And that's one of my hobbies that I like to do. So, just getting started, I wanted to first know from you guys how many of you have like fear networking, like, or how many of you have qualms of networking? I want to see in the chat section. Um, about what you guys think about networking. Is it hard for you? Do you feel it's awkward? Do you feel it's a little intimidating? What are your thoughts about networking? I want this to be a very engaging session. I know you can see your own screen and everything, but I do want engagement because that's what will thrive me to go forward with this. So Netra says it is very tough. It is actually really tough, and it can be intimidating to even like hop on a conversation, like start initiate a conversation with anyone. So I want to know what do you think about networking? What stops you when you try to go and have that conversation with someone, or even send an email to someone, or just kind of ping someone on LinkedIn? What are your thoughts that happens? It's hard when you don't get a response. It's very I feel frustrating when, especially I think when you're making a lot of applications and you're not hearing back. I think that's a very frustrating process for me. As Ashi said, like when you don't get a response, you feel like you're just like throwing things in the black box and nobody's responding. So fear of sounding stupid, that is a very valid fear. Fear of sounding needy, fear of sounding kind of like asking for too much. And all those are really valid fears. And I just want to kind of tell you guys that I relate to all of that. I do feel the same when I kind of try to think of that, like in networking terms. So networking is kind of awkward for everyone. Energy gets drained with too much of exposure with people. If you're an introvert, especially, I'm just trying to talk about like if you are an introvert, if you have not exposed yourself to kind of talking to people and giving yourself that chance to kind of like have a conversation. And we need a lot more downtime. So when we see an extrovert kind of going and talking to people, it kind of makes us feel like how is that person going to, like, how does this person have no inhibitions? But I just want to let you guys know, if you've never, like, don't firstly coin yourself just as an introvert. Maybe you've never exposed yourself to that kind of extroversion, or that kind of like maybe just having a conversation. Because I am an introvert, I love to read my book, I love to kind of just be by myself more than being with other people. I do want to be with other people, but at the same time I want to be more with myself. And it, even now, if I have to initiate a conversation with someone or ask someone, I think twice, because I want to make sure that it's received well on the other side and the other person is not thinking that I'm asking for too much. But I want to give you an insight of what your strengths are on an introvert. If you are an introvert, or if you have not exposed yourself to talking to people, if you are an introvert, you are a great listener, you value deeper connections, we are very respectful of people's boundaries, we are always very curious and creative. So I want to kind of give you that stage and that mental opportunity. I want you to give yourself that mental opportunity to think outside of your comfort zone of like just like kind of, I mean, some of the fears and some of the concerns that came up, like, okay, somebody is going to judge me, somebody is going to think like I'm too needy, I don't get a response. Just kind of try to do this from a place of like, I just want to see, I want to expose myself to a new thing, I want to get out of my comfort zone and see how it feels like. Like, just giving a recent example, last week I gave an interview. It is out of my comfort zone. It was a different field. It was into program management, and I am not. I'm an engineer. I'm not into program management. It was a completely orthogonal role for me. But because they wanted to interview me, I don't know if I was prepared or not. But I was like, why not just give an interview and see how that goes? And so I'm just trying to tell you, and it didn't go well, I would say, but I learned a lot of things that I need to prepare if I want to switch that career. So I'm just trying to tell you, like, you have to expose yourself and you have to be willing to do that. So but the best part about this, especially during these times, we have access to digital networking, a blessing for introverts. Why it is a blessing for introverts to be, like, for example, if you have if you have LinkedIn, or if you have even any other platform to kind of contact people, you are in a very controlled environment. Like, if the other person is responding to you, you can take the time to, fabricate your response and then send it back to them. And then time and words are to your advantage. You can even ask your friends or get it proofread by someone who you think that knows about this. So for one of the things that I did was, I had a mentor who was into the field of HR. So I like he's not giving me a job, but he was helping me to kind of understand how I can have a meaningful conversation with these people who I don't know how to talk about, because there were so many times that I saw that I was not talking to them in a professional way. And so what I'm trying to tell you over here is, there are so many books to formulate, your emails or formulate your responses as well. So kind of go and do that digging. And that's what I want to kind of give you. So if you are an introvert, if you are scared of judgment, if you are scared of what other people are going to be thinking about you, or if you're an extrovert and you're kind of trying to find out how you could stage yourself for better success rate in asking people to get a job or anything like that, I would definitely say that just try to kind of like think of this as a fun experiment, rather than kind of thinking that, okay, I have to do this. So, just giving you a little bit of LinkedIn tips for a killer profile. I think there are a lot of things that you could do for a killer profile on LinkedIn. So I don't want to go for that. Um, just giving you a basic kind of idea. First thing would be, make sure that your resume and your LinkedIn are kind of similar, but at the same time, LinkedIn is much more descriptive. You have linked your documents, kind of like whatever recommendations you have, all of those things into your particular sections of your professional experience. And you only have 5 to 6 seconds to kind of convince the HR to, or HM, hiring manager, to kind of be on your profile. So make sure that you make it a worthwhile experience for them in the first 5 to 6 seconds. I want to kind of go towards the other less used features, like people which people don't know, which is kind of leveraging the university page. So if you just write like University of Texas Dallas over here, you would kind of come to every university has a university page. So you can just go to that university page, and then you could kind of see what they are doing. For example, you could see their posts. You could engage over here. Like, if people, like, even if I know you're already here, but even if you want to kind of get engagement, you can kind of start talking to people over here, just kind of commenting over here, because a lot of these things are being seen by, like, if I'm a part of this group, if you comment over here, I would be able to see that as well. So let's say, for example, the reason I kind of brought you over here was with this thing, which is the alumni feature. And I am a graduate now. Let's say I'm going to graduate in 2021, and I want to see who were the graduates in 2020. I can kind of go over there, and I want to kind of talk to people who work at, let's say, Microsoft. So if I just put Microsoft over here, I would have a bank of people who work at Microsoft, and I can just kind of go and connect with them. It's like, hey, I'm a fellow Comet. I saw you are a part of the UT Dallas group on LinkedIn, and that's the reason I kind of wanted to just have a conversation with you, or something like that. And not just that, you can also filter it out as per like the engineering, the kind of work that they are doing, what they have studied. And even I think one more thing that I found interesting, the skill set. For example, right now, I'm not thinking of that, but let's say if I want to go towards program management, I would kind of just filter out people who have program management as a skill set, and then maybe I would first do the first connections, because that would help me. And if even if they're second or third, I would ask my first degree connections, because if they're second, like second degree connections means that they are connected to someone I'm connected, and third degree connections means they are connected to someone that, like, there are two links before getting connected. So that would be one of the things. Second. Yep. Okay. So now the other thing would be the company page. So what I'm trying to, if the essence of what I'm trying to tell you guys over here, number one is you have to be very creative in your job search journey. You cannot be just like, okay, I'm just gonna apply and wait for other people to come back to me. You have to be very like attentive, and you have to be very proactive in understanding what's happening. If somebody got a job, how did they get a job? If somebody got a call, how did they get a call? If you see me on LinkedIn, you would always, if somebody posts that they got a job, I always ask them, how did you get a job? Because I want to know how they did it. And you can always, like, getting a job is not like you have to reinvent the wheel. There are successful ways that people have, like, gotten a job. You just have to figure out, you just have to follow their footsteps. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So if you are looking for a job, or if you are kind of in a phase where you want to see, what you like, if you just want to even network, just kind of see the footsteps, like, of how people have done it successfully, and kind of just try to model their behavior. So that's what I would say. Second thing I just wanted to show you is the company page. Let's say you want to work at Google. What you would do is just type Google over here, and you would see a company page. Let's say here you would see a company page here, Google as a company, and this would land you up over here. And if you just go over here, you would be able to see how many things that they are posting. If you just go to post over here, and then you can kind of just like as you see that there are so many people engaging with these things over here. Just comment things over here. Go to the post that has the least amount of, I would say, engagement, because that would help them to see you. That would get you the visibility the fastest, I would say. Or just generally engage. Or if I was looking for a job, and if I wanted to work at Google, what I would do is I would kind of talk to these people who are commenting as well, because that in itself makes me, like, get connected to people who are in the same like domain, or who want the same thing. People as well, you could even kind of see, who are these people. If any of these people worked, I mean, I'm sure there are students from UTD as well, and if you want to connect, you could just connect from these people. Let's say I just want to see, I want to see people in engineering, or kind of or maybe from my university, then I can kind of find that over here. Or I kind of want to see people from Hyderabad, I can just filter out over here with the help of this. I can, as I said, I can see the life. There are so many people who have like, I can just see, like, Hiroshi is the person, he's the SVP. I can kind of just contact this person and be like, hey, I saw this article that was posted by you, and I want to kind of reach out to you to understand what this means, or something like that. You can directly apply your jobs as well over here. Create a job alert, which is the easiest. I feel that's the easiest thing to do, because anytime a job comes, you could just apply for that. And you could see, like, people, like, a day in the life of a developer advocate at Google. You would see this is the person, she's willing to have a conversation. That's the reason she has posted. So you can kind of just contact this person, contact all of these people who are trying to like post, and see this one. Like, if I were you, I could kind of see what's happening with these people, if there are any tags of these names. So this is like some of the few things that you could do. Leveraging groups, syncing network, these are kind of the similar things, but I would say in a different way. So this is one of the posts that I had made. How can you talk to someone at a Fortune 500 company? So that is simply by leveraging groups. On the top right, just put wireless. Let me open it up here. What I'm trying to say is join as many groups as possible. I think now you don't have any upper band on joining groups. Before we used to have like 50. So I'm just going to write wireless, and then I'm going to be in groups, and then I'll just see what groups are there for wireless. And then here, what I'm trying to say is you could see how many members are over here, and you could see all of these members, and you could message these members even without being their connection. You can directly message them. You don't even need an email. So that is, I think, a wonderful feature, because you guys are in the same group. You could kind of just join as many groups as possible, so you have a bank of people to connect with, and then you can just ask them questions like, hey, I see that you're a part of this group, what could we do about this, or what do we do about this group, or anything that you have, because these people are like easy to access, because you don't need to be connected to them. You can already send them a message. Or you can also use the other trick: find a person, find a group that they are in, and then kind of just join the group that they are in, and then message them. There are so many ways to contact people with this. Another thing I would say is sync up your contacts from other address books and sources. Use your Outlook email. Use your phone contacts as well. Any contacts that you have, or your Gmail, personal email, anything like that, to build up your network. Because I understand, like when you're beginning, you are like, I don't have any people to kind of contact. But this is one of the best ways that you could do so. I remember what I did was, I had someone who was already like, I think, a year ahead of me. I asked her to kind of give me like kind of solicit some introductions for me, so that I at least have some base network to start with, and she was willing to do that. So some of those things, you have to be very like tactical during this time. So that's what I would say in regards to like using LinkedIn in a fun way. This is something that I want to kind of like focus on, like how to talk to someone on LinkedIn, because some of you guys said like you are kind of scared of how the other person will respond, or if the other person doesn't respond. I want you to see this kind of very like very attentively, because if you understand this basics, I'm telling you, my rate of getting a response from someone, even like, of course, now also I have difficulties, but it's much higher than other person than who's just kind of asking them for something. So let me just start this video. Hi everyone. Today I want to explain you guys about relationship building on LinkedIn, and it's a very important phenomena, social dynamic rule, but people just miss it for some reason, and I've tried to codify it. And let me know what you feel about it. So for example, this is a person that you want to reach out to, and this is where you are in their fourth or the fifth degree connections. And I want to explain you that every person has a first degree connection, who are their friends and family; second degree connection, who are their colleagues, or classmates or anything like that; and third degree connections, which are acquaintances of acquaintances; and fourth degree connections that they have they have not had any encounter with. So if someone in their first degree connection asks them for something, it's 90% of the chances that they would go and do it, or even go out of their way and do it. For example, my best friend, she asked me to take care of her pet. I was extremely busy that time, but I still made sure that I do, because she's my friend, and I have a very good like relationship with her. So second is basically your colleagues, right? So if my colleague asked me to take care of their pet and I have a busy schedule, chances are I'm going to go ahead and say no, right? Because that person does not fall into my first degree of connections, and like that we don't have a personal connection. And then third is basically acquaintances. If some just my neighbor comes and says like, hey, take care of my dog, I'm going to be like, hey, I'm going to think about it, sorry. So that's how it's going to be, right? So you need to understand this rule. So when you are approaching people, you're in the fourth degree connections, and you're asking them for 3 to 4 things in just one go, right? Like, review my profile, review my resume, do this for me, do that for me. No, that's like a big shortest way of not getting a reply. If you want to basically get a reply from someone, or if you want to actually build up a relationship and be able to explore their contacts as well, what you really need to do is you need to convert yourself from that fourth degree connection to that third degree, to that second degree, to that first degree. Now it's a very gradual process. It's a give and take. You really need to understand what they are looking for. How can you give them the satisfaction of contributing to your growth, or how can you come up with like what they they actually need and genuinely need, and what does their profile represent, and how can I forward them the articles, or how can I forward them something like a book or a Kindle Kindle book or something like that, that can be of value to them. So that is extremely important. Like for example, for me, when I was trying to contact someone, I saw what they are about, and I was able to see that this person really likes selling, so, and I love selling, so I forwarded the book of Sell or Be Sold. I actually bought it and I forwarded that to them, because I was like, yeah, I mean, this person is a big shot, and no level of contribution from my side can balance out the value that he has presented in my life. So that's how I try to basically still do my due diligence. So you really need to understand, and we as people live in boundaries. You need to understand that last time somebody was asked you for something and you felt uncomfortable is because this person violated and tried to come to your first degree connections, and you were like, no, 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 and let back off, right? And then it's forever, the chance of maintaining the relationship or developing it is forever lost. So try to understand that you need to come from a place of like very gradual process, right? It has to be very gradual. You need to respect the boundaries, and one way to really respect the boundaries is ask questions. A question to ask a question, right? For example, if I want something from them, I was like, hey, I actually want something from you, can I ask you a question about it? Like something like that. Okay, so hope this was good. Thank you. So hope this helps. I just wanted to make sure that you guys know that don't ask too much too early. Take your time and then focus on building the relationship. This is what I wanted to kind of focus from this one. Just giving you, I think I'm short on time. So I'm just going to be giving you a little bit of like what your messages should be, because that would just help you to send that kind of a message. Be very positive, be very sincere. Don't ask them the most obvious questions that they have on their profile itself, like, hey, how has your, like for some example, some people have asked me questions that like, oh, how was your work experience at some other company that I've not even worked with? And I was like, how did he think that I'm working with this company? So be sincere, do your homework, value their time, and show them how you value their time. Show them that you're dedicated and have done your research. I think you value their time. People don't I think if you're from India or if you're from some other country, I just want to give you a glimpse of the culture in States. People value people's time. And when we ask for someone's time, it is kind of, we know we're asking for something. Like we understand that we have made an ask, even if it's like a 10 minutes of their time. And I think when I was in India and when I came over here, I did not understand that asking for people's time over here is a big thing. And I'm not saying that people are not gracious enough to, like, grateful enough to give their time and all of that stuff, but I'm just saying that when somebody takes some time out of the schedule, they have to make efforts because they're busy and they have other things like their family to take care of and all that stuff. So when you ask someone to just directly and say them, can you please review my profile, or can you just review my resume or stuff like that, you're just not valuing their time. You're just not thinking that they might be busy, they might have some stuff. Instead of that, you could just steer your approach like, hey, I know you're really busy, and even like, for example, like I wanted to ask the feedback from the interview that I gave last week, and I didn't know like if the hiring manager would be willing to give me a feedback. So I just kind of told him like, hey, I know you're going to be busy, I can send you a questionnaire that will just take you like at max 5 minutes, and that would be a very valuable thing for me, and he was more than willing to do that. So I just sent him a Google form with the questions that I had, and it took him, I don't know how much time it took him, but he gave a very detailed view of like, what I could do better in future. So I'm just trying to tell you that this is one of the ways, and like it doesn't matter if I didn't get the job, but I now know so many things that I should do in my next interview. So I'm just trying to tell you that this is the approach that you should have. Show them that you're dedicated and have done research, find out what they're looking for, and show your efforts in wanting to give them respect. Act like a professional. Make sure that you're using a very like very refined and formal language. It doesn't hurt to be formal. Like a lot of people try to be casual, or they try to strike a balance of casual and formal. But I feel like when you're just like walk on eggshells, when you're just seeing the other person for the, like when you're just trying to talk to the other person for the first time, and mirror their language. If they're trying to be casual, then you be casual but less casual than them. Always try to go towards the formal side. One ask at a time. Don't ask for too many things. Don't overwhelm the other person with so many requests. If they give you a suggestion, show them your progress, how dedicated, committed, and creative you are. So that's what I would say. Giving you some examples, I would just kind of want to give you some examples in terms of that. So simply by genuinely connecting with them, suppose you want to get reply from someone, go through their profile, take at least 5 minutes, try learning about the career trajectory. I still do this. Like, I mean, I'm not, and it's going to be a forever journey for me to kind of do this, because you want to learn. You're not trying to just get the job. You're trying to propel your curiosity about that field. You're trying to gather information so that you can take an informed decision. What type of person they are, what inspires them, look into their interests, volunteering work, projects, etc. Now people connect with people on common grounds. The first time you meet someone, your mind automatically tries to find common grounds. Apply the same social dynamic skill over here. Try finding what you have in common, like career interests, groups, schools, whatever you guys have, even friends. Go to the profile, hit connect, and most importantly, add a note. And you could be like, hi, make sure that you write the name. I find your profile inspiring, and write what you found interesting or common. Would love to get connected. Thanks. Would appreciate getting connected. Thanks. That's as simple as that. Just a simple maths, assuming one request takes you 5 minutes, 12 requests per hour, 84 requests per week, 36 requests per month. So even if you just get 10% of the reply, you have made 30 new contacts in 1 month. And 2 referrals per contact, it's 90 contacts per month. So it's like, I'm just saying, like, you can make 50 more contacts in just 1 month if you just be, kind of like, what do you say, creative about this thing. So that's what I would say. I would kind of say, like, first should be a welcome message, which is what I showed you. Second should be try to engage in a dialogue, try to mirror what they are trying to, how they are trying to respond. If you get a response, and if you don't get a response, it's fine. Don't get disheartened. You can even send another message after maybe a week or so, but make sure that you're not overwhelming the other person. And you have to be okay with whatever people are offering. Because let's say, for example, recently when I was looking for information about something, I approached like 5 to 6 people, and the people that I thought would give me the most help, or give me like the most guidance, they just kind of gave me really like cold answers. And I was like, okay, this is disheartening. But at the same time, the people that I didn't expect any help from gave me a lot of guidance. And that's why I was like, okay, I have to be okay with what people are offering, because it's kind of as simple as that. They might have time constraints, they might have so many other things going on. So be okay with that. Just giving you another reply. I felt this one also was really good. So this person tried to contact me, and then he's like, I will be around in California, would be great if we can meet up. And I was like, okay, that's good. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to show you guys how people talk. And this was one of the messages that I felt was good. Um see like, I'm just saying how willing people are ready to talk over here. um See, for example, I noticed both of us have unconventional master's journey. In the sense, I'm probably emulating your strategy. Any tips you would give? Like, for example, how this person is trying to have a conversation with me without making me feel like, okay, overwhelmed or something like that. So, which is the reason I want to kind of, and he's telling me about him later after he has had, asked me questions about me. So be interested in them, which is what I was kind of trying to say. And take the conversation offline. So one of these messages like, thank you for accepting my request to connect. I must say your LinkedIn articles are quite inspiring and motivating, but that alone is not the reason I sent you a request to connect. Basically, I have an admit from UT Dallas in their ECE program. This guy, he contacted me from my articles, but he kind of steered the conversation to what he wants, and in a very beautiful and elegant way. I already have an MS in this, but he's looking for guidance. While I see you in RF, I still am hoping to get some valuable feedback from you about your UTD ECE experience. I'm sure you're busy, but would be willing to answer some basic questions about UTD's ECE program. Let me know, and I can follow up with a small questionnaire. as an editable Google Doc, and which is what I did as well, and which is the reason I really liked his response. So if writing is cumbersome for you, we can always talk over phone. He really wanted a conversation over phone, but how gracefully, he kind of took it from what he wants to what works the best for him. Thank you for your time. So this is what I would say. I have other tips as well, but I think we're running short on time. So I'm just going to, I'll just send these links to you guys later. I think Professor Lee is also going to send you I mean, he's going to send you the recording or stuff like that. So in the end, maybe I'll send you all of these things as well. Um, I just want to make sure that, like, I have a lot of these things. Um, in regards to this, but I just want to make sure that you guys got the essence of what I'm trying to say over here, which is that you have to be creative and you have to be very like, you cannot just think that I'm going to apply and get the job. You have to be very intuitive and sit down with yourself and write. Like, how do we solve problems in university? We sit down, we write those things, like, okay, this is the problem statement. And then I kind of think, what are the solutions for it? What I could do? I could talk to someone. I could talk to my roommate. She has a friend at Intel, or my roommate's cousin is working at Qualcomm. How can I talk to her? And these are things I did. I was in India when all of these, when I was looking for my first internship, and my mom took me to a priest, because that's what Indians, like Indian parents, a lot of Indian parents are very religious. And when I was talking to the priest, I was not interested in like doing whatever rituals were happening, but I got to know that his son is in Verizon in States, and I was like, can I talk to him? And so that's the way I kind of like steered conversation. Just closing up, I know we're a little late. Just closing up, enjoy your time in the university. I think this is what we were talking, Professor Lee and I, yesterday. I want to tell you guys, this is the best time. Trust me. You might be thinking that, oh, I have so much to worry about. I have my assignments. I have, I have to get a job and all that stuff. Just give yourself a break. Just think about, the people who have the job, are they really happy? Right? I will get the job and I'll still have something to worry about. When I got the job, I was worried about getting something else, and then when I got that thing, I was worried about getting something else. So I'm just trying to tell you that this is going to be an ongoing cycle. So just pause where you are, make the most of the university, go to Toastmasters, join different clubs. Don't just think that you are there to develop your technical skills. You are there to develop your non-technical skills. Be parts of different groups. And that's this when you do all of this, you might make contacts as well. You might, you never know who you're going to meet. You're going to have solicitations and all of those things. What I'm trying to say is, this is the best phase of your life, trust me. Like, once you come to the industry, you're going to be like, oh my god, the school days were the best. So make sure that you enjoy, hang out with your friends, you have those parties, those dinners. I don't think so, I mean, I do remember my assignments, but I remember the precious times and the funny things, and the like, the joyous part of the best part was like having fun with friends. So make sure that you do that. Just don't get burdened by the commitments and assignments and all of those things. So that's all from my side for today. Thank you, Professor Lee. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Miss Chalani. A really wonderful talk. Um, the time is already close to 12, but if Larry and Rashini, if you don't mind, if you can stay just a little bit, like the 12:15, 12:30, something like that, I'd like to really have the students have the opportunity to ask questions. So the whole point of having this webinar is about the asking questions. So I can see some of the questions in the chat box, but if you will, please turn your microphone on and be proactive and ask questions. And when you ask questions, please state your name and the state the which whom the question is for. Okay, so Mr. Horner or Miss Chalani, so please say that and then ask your question, please.
Yeah, I think we can start with Mr. Horner. If he the questions, we can ask people like, what questions you have for Mr. Horner. Maybe I can even ask, if that's okay with him. Mr. Horner, are you there? I think I'm
Oh
not
yes, I'm
able.
still here.
Okay. Yeah, I just had this question. You were saying, right, we should be listening. What does that mean? And how can I demonstrate, I mean, not even demonstrate, how can I exhibit that behavior when I'm interviewing, when I'm giving an interview? And like I think one of the things you said, like you have to weave back whatever they are saying. But like when there is an interview, there is a lot of like the breaking point does come, right? What are they looking for exactly during that time? How do you demonstrate that you have good listening skills? And if you don't know an answer, there are times that you're going to like be like, okay, what shall I'm going to repeat the question to understand that, or buy some time. But what could you do? What would you do, or what would you expect, or what is a good behavior according to you in those times?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So when I say listening, it really is understanding. In industry, we have domain specific jargon, and even company to company, sometimes there may be domain specific jargon that's in there, and we have to understand again that what they're looking for is, are you going to be a good fit? And the act of listening is keying in to the questions that they've got and understanding what the meta question is. What is really behind the question? Particularly if you're speaking with an HR person or a hiring manager, they've already decided that you're a decent candidate for the job. You don't want to prove that. You're wasting air if you spend time trying to prove to them that you're a decent candidate for the job. They're not asking that question. They already have that answer. So in listening to the questions that they've got, they're trying to extract something else. They're trying to extract, and they're not going to ask it to you directly. That's
Hmm.
just not the process. It's not the human process. So when I say listen, it really is. It's think about what they're really asking and try to answer to that. And again, it's important to be crisp, to be succinct. Take the time to think about your answer and then say exactly what you mean, and use the appropriate technical descriptions that they have used. Is that
Hmm.
that's what they're looking for, to be honest with you, right? As you pointed out, time is precious to these folks.
Yes. Yes, and I think that's where I kind of now understand what, because I think the interviewer was playing mind games with me. The way you said, like they try to look at the breaking point, and I think they asked me 5 questions that I didn't know. And after saying that I don't know this, or trying to think about it, these were questions that I would only know if I had been working in that job for like some time, but I was not working in that. And I think after those 5 questions, where I had no, I felt my body heating up, and I was like, okay, I don't know what he's asking, and I feel cornered. So
I
I think
used
this.
to I used to have a professor that said, if you don't understand the question and you've asked me to describe it for you and you still don't understand it, change the question to one that you can answer. If I understand you correctly, and
Mm,
that's the statement I use when I'm going to change the question. If I understand you correctly, and then I'm going to answer the question that I like, or that I've been better prepared for. Don't do it often, but you
mm.
can do that, right? If you do it 5 times, it's strike over. You may as well say, hey, thanks for your time. I'm going to go have a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a very good answer. Like, if I understand your question correctly, and then I can steer it to something that is more comfortable for me to answer in context of what he's asking, and maybe answer that, and maybe he would help me to clue to the next question or next answer of what he's looking for in terms of that.
So we got any questions from the field out there? Don't be shy. This is your chance to, to pop a question in there, and have us talk frankly to it. How
Yeah.
many of you have never had to sit for an interview for a professional job? Have you practiced that? Have you gone to to an IEEE meeting and practiced that with some of your colleagues? Oftentimes that's a good forum to do that. Get used to that uncomfortable feeling. One of the other things that I tell candidates, you know yourself. If you have a tendency of getting sweaty hands, carry a handkerchief in your pocket. Put your hands in your pocket and wipe your sweaty hands on the handkerchief before you shake someone's hand. these are just the little things. It happens. Everybody gets a little bit nervous, and nobody wants to grab a wet dish towel. All right, so be prepared for those kinds. If you know that, be prepared for those kinds of things. Questions, please.
I can see some of the questions in the chat box. For those who type in questions in chat box, can you just go ahead and ask?
Is
Turn your
COVID
microphone
factor
off.
affecting job opportunities currently? No. As a matter of fact, last summer we had at Intel we had some summer interns, and they were originally scheduled to be on site. Well, we still had them, only they worked from their dorm room or their apartment or wherever they were. So I don't see that. LinkedIn HR goes through only 1 to 2 minutes. Is it good to have a descriptive way, or should this be short? I don't understand that question. If a person has never posted anything on LinkedIn, but he or she is a hiring manager, then on what basis should one connect? So, chances are you're not going to figure out who the hiring manager is until you're actually before them at the interview process. Inside Intel, I can see who the hiring managers are for job recs. But if I use an outside URL to go to the Intel website, and it's the same website, it just knows by my IP address, whether I'm inside or outside, there's information which is not posted. So your chances of knowing who the hiring manager are very limited before you actually have the interview.
Yeah, I think Larry, I would also like to answer that question. Tanu is a friend of mine, and I think what she's trying to ask is like maybe let's say she knows the hiring manager, because we internally can know the hiring manager as like for example, if I'm working at Qualcomm, I would know who the hiring manager is, and I should not give that information to my friend. But let's say in a conversation she gets to know, or she has she gets to know somehow that this person is the hiring manager, and she's trying to say like I want to reach out to this person on LinkedIn, then how do I kind of contact? The best way is to kind of like just see something that strikes you from their profile, and then contact them and ask them questions on that. Or I would say that contact someone you think from their connections is very engaging, and then talk to them, and then kind of make your way to solicit an introduction.
Yeah, let me take a cut at that from my
Yeah.
experience. I would consider it a professional foul, being a hiring manager and having a candidate asynchronously reach out to me when I knew that my position was not advertised externally with my name associated with that position. That would tell me that they're playing a game that I don't particularly care for. It's different. It's completely different to ask someone inside if they can put in a good word for you. That's a different thing. Once you've met the hiring manager, then connect with them. But I would tell you this, don't do it. You're going to burn a bridge. Do not connect to the hiring manager until after they've made contact with you. Do not do it. Just don't do it. Bad form.
I think Ashish is asking about LinkedIn summary go through only for 1 to 2 minutes. Is it good to have a descriptive or should it be short? I would say just make paragraphs, make it as succinct and clear as possible. If I think just use link media as much as possible. Like there's so many people who have put a video description of their LinkedIn profile. So do something like that. Do something more creative. Make sure that you have your recommendations or stuff. I mean, something that would give you the credibility right away, and make the HR stay there for longer. So that's what I would say for this question for Ashish. Do we have more questions?
So Shubham is asking questions. Can you, Shubham, turn your microphone on and ask questions? Shubham? So Shubham's question is, should we start applying to internships just after coming to US?
I would say you should start developing relationships with people after even before coming to the US, and that you should not feel impeded by kind of thinking like, oh, I mean, it's when you're trying to apply for an internship, you're looking to get an internship, right? And I think the basis and the fundamental of all of that is to try to build a relationship, because don't focus on getting an internship or a job, because you could get so much more when you try to just really focus on developing a relationship. So that's what I would say to you, Shubham. I think the next question is, in chat or in person, would rerouting a conversations towards our benefit considered rude or unprofessional by the other person? Uh, Prithvi is asking this. I don't think so. It is really depending on how you ask. If you're asking for a professional advice, I don't think so people would feel offended, but you just have to be okay with what they're offering. If they have time, they might help you, give you a descriptive answer. But if they don't have time, then don't feel like, oh, why should this person not respond? But you have to understand, we know what LinkedIn is, right? People are looking for opportunities. It is for career growth. It is, anyone who has a LinkedIn profile understands that this whole game works by referring, by helping people, and they want to do that. So if you ask them for a professional advice, or reroute a conversation towards getting a solicitation or something like that, I don't think so it's going to be rude. But if you do that with an expectation that they're going to do it, like, it's a request, it's not an expectation. So that's what I would say. Like, a request is like, if the other person helps me, it's a good, and an expectation is like, oh, this person should help me. I don't think so it should come from that side. So that's what I would say, Prithvi. But be very, very like, focus on developing that relationship rather than asking them so much, right? Kind of just make sure that you are not, like what Larry said, you're not burning the bridges. And each person is different, and each person can feel violated in a different way. But what I'm trying to say is, um, maintain those boundaries and ask, and that would be the surest way to get something and like, even if the one person is not responding, you have so many other people to contact.
Well,
Yeah.
Shreka raised the hand and lowered the hand. Shreka, can you turn the microphone on and ask a question?
Hello, my name is Sureka, and I got an admit for Call 21. And my question is for Mr. Ono. And so basically, you spoke about something that references do not really work, and you're not looking forward to getting references, or communicating with our references. And it's more about what unique we can bring to the table. But apart from our technical knowledge that we can vouch for and our references can vouch for, and our team skills that our volunteering work and other interests can vouch for, what exactly is someone recruiting us looking for? Because that's what we have to offer at work, right? And I'm not sure if my question is clear, but it's more on the line that we have our technical skills to offer, and our team skills, and everything that we've offered at our previous job or our previous school and worked on, and we can show we have development bandwidth, but what else can we show? Like, if we limit that, our references will not work, and we cannot have people vouch for us. I'm not sure if I'm clear, but yeah, that's the general question.
Yeah, that was really hard. The audio was very poor on that. So I think if it's similar to the comment that's in the chat window, on a job application, require an employee reference. So if you've had professional work experience, excuse me, if you've had professional work experience, we would certainly expect that to be on your 2-page resume. We're not interested in getting written letters of reference. That's really not something that does much for us in today's environment. If you have a LinkedIn profile, you should have any references or any comments from previous employers as part of your LinkedIn profile. If it's not in your LinkedIn profile, from our perspective, you haven't taken the effort that's necessary to make that information available. So as I said, if you looked at those slides, we're not interested in references. We're not interested in what your goals are. What we're interested in is, are you a fit for the team, and do you have the skills? And anything outside of that is quite, to be quite honest, is viewed as noise. Don't spend a lot of time on the noise. Spend time on making that tuning that I spoke to, so that it's obvious that you're the best fit candidate for the opportunity that we need. It's about the opportunity of the company. I don't mean to burst your bubble. It's not about you. It's about what you can do for the company. Think back, look at that Leonardo da Vinci thing if you haven't. Seriously, that's some of the best advice that I've ever had, and it's some of the best advice that I can give. Understand what we're trying to say there. It's not about you. There's an old joke that don't die for your job, because it will be posted before your obituary is. There's a lot of truth to that. You want to be professional, you want to work hard, you want to have great career opportunities and all of that. But at the end of the day, commercial corporations, it's about what you're doing for them. It's not about what you're doing. So keep that in mind, right? That's that laser focus.
Yes, Larry, thank you for the answer. Yeah, I get the point. Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone?
I think Ruchit is asking, does job application require an employee reference? No, it does not. Does having one help in getting my application through HR or hiring team more efficiently? Yes, it does, because you don't require an employee reference to do a job application. But if you have someone internally, and if that person can put in the word, and if that person already knows the hiring manager, then you could kind of leverage the credibility. Like you can kind of borrow the credibility of this person. But it really depends on how the relationship between this person, the referral, and the hiring manager is. If they have good relations, then yes. If they don't have, like if they just know each other because they're working in the same company, then maybe it will just be like, but it will just help your resume to kind of go above the competition, to get into the hands of the hiring manager. So that's how it would help. I think, yeah, we answered all our questions.
Any other questions from anyone? Oh, there is one new question in the chat box.
So grades are important, right? Like I said, you want to get from the pile of 500 resumes into the pile of 2 handfuls, and part of that sorting process is where you stand in the class. That certainly is, at least at companies like Intel. Stellar grades tip the scale in the right direction. As I said, if you're on the chess team at UT Dallas and you're a world-class chess player, that could tip the scale for you, right? If you're president of the IEEE, that may tip the scale for you. If you're part of a soccer intramural team, we're probably not interested in that, right?
Well, it seems like the no more question in chat box. There is a comment to Rashini, but it is not a question.
I think there's a question. This person is asking, I don't know, Chaitanya is asking that how do you manage to multitask when I was suggesting how I did all of these things. I mean, I just want to tell you guys that I was also working out for 2 hours all the 5 days of the week. So that was also something that I did. It's just that I like doing that. I kind of like waking up early in the morning, scheduling my, I'll just show you a little bit, like yesterday night what I was doing. This is how my week looks like. So I knew I have the speaking engagement, I have to start working, I have a call, and all of those things, I just put that on my calendar. And I'm just trying to tell you guys that you have to put that on the calendar. You have to manage your day, and you have to be very intuitive and steer. If your coursework requires more time, give that more time, but at the same time make sure that 1 hour you're giving to your non-technical skills. And you'll have to change your mindset, you'll have to work on that, which is kind of like thinking about, like, okay, I feel like if I hang out 1 hour with my friends, this is going to be a waste of time. But you have to recondition your thought. You have to be like, no, if I spend 1 hour with my friends, maybe that's going to help me to get much more attentive to what I want to do later. So I think that's one of the things that I would like to say about that. So I think, yeah, that's all from my side, Professor Lee.
Any other questions from anyone?
If not, hey, I appreciate it. Thanks, folks. I see some of you have already reached out to me at LinkedIn. You were listening. Those of you that haven't, you weren't listening.
All right, so if there is no more questions, we'll adjourn this webinar. So I really appreciate the Mr. Horner and Ms. Chalani for your valuable time to share with me, share with us. And I hope the students have some good the tips and insights and different perspectives about the job searching. And I hope this is a very valuable time. So thank everyone. Thank you everyone for joining, and especially thank you, Mr. Horner and Ms. Chalani.
Thank
We'll
you,
adjourn this webinar. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Lee, for having us, and thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Larry, for giving us such a wonderful. Like I just wrote down whatever notes he gave about being listening and being an active listener. So that it was very educational for me. Thank you so much, Larry, and thank you so much, Dr. Lee, for having us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.